How's it going, everybody? This is Seer here, and today we are starting off my new video series. We're doing a top 10 war defense video, and next week I'm hoping to get the top 10 war offense video out. Now this is going to be a every patch sort of video that I'm planning to do, to where I can try to show you guys what's currently hot in the meta right now for what I'm seeing in Alliance War, and also what the community's been kind of talking about on my Discord. Now, I'm not saying to go out and build some of these teams, because at the bottom end of the barrel, if you will, these are some of the older characters, and I don't want you wasting your investment in them if you're not at that point of the game yet. So if you're more of a mid-game player and you don't have X team invested in, I don't want you to go out of your way, throw your investment into them if they don't have those new stats. Because of the power difference between the older characters and teams and the newer ones, and now the new level cap, I really don't want you wasting your resources, but I want you to kind of get an idea and hopefully get your creative juices flowing as far as how you can kind of make your investment actually work for you. So if you do have any questions about this, feel free to comment in the section below, jump on my Discord. We have an awesome community over there that we're growing, and people are pretty active to where we can say, don't do this. This is probably a better investment for you guys. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start the video off with team number 10. Sitting in at the number 10 spot is going to be the new Avengers. This is an older team, so like I mentioned earlier, I don't want you going out of your way to make more investment into this. However, this team is a legendary unlock, which means that people have made some sort of investment in here. Ronan as a character is able to shut down a lot of the turn meter, and the team is so fast, they can get the jump on a lot of teams, even some of the new stat teams in the game, to where it catches people off guard. I've taken Thing out and thrown in a lifter character. Now, lifter characters are something where they're kind of a plug and play and change the entire dynamic of how the team really functions and works. So you can take out Thing, throw in somebody like Nick Fury, who has synergy with Agent Coulson, giving him speed up, changing how the turn order goes and catching an opponent off guard. Or you can throw Dorman, which is what I'm currently doing, giving them that revive once and making it to where certain counters that usually works, but kind of a higher risk in a sense, like Nowhere. Nowhere is able to get tunneled down, and sometimes your Nova gets killed off, and he's the only real damage dealer on the team. They just tunnel him down, and things go sideways fairly quick because of that. Having the revive once on here makes it to where that's a less reliable counter. You could take this a step further, throw characters in such as Apocalypse or Ares or Black Knight, and really change the matchup to where people need to use a much higher investment team in here and pull something away from your opponent. So for that, I really do like this as the number 10 position right now for the war defenses. Sitting in at the number 9 spot is the Hive Mind team, and I have 2 lifter characters in here. Now, normal counters that I typically used in here would have been something like a Superior 6 team, which can still work, but you have to be careful you're not pushing that Dr. Doom, because if you end up using the Green Goblin Classic Ultimate, you push Dr. Doom, now you're giving this team a ride, and things could go sideways very, very quickly for you. Other counters I've typically used in the past is something like a Underworld team. I'm able to kind of tunnel down certain characters like Carnage and Red Goblin to where I don't have to worry about them feeding off the minions. By adding in a Pre-Taunt and Dr. Doom in here, makes it to where those counters are a lot riskier to take. If I end up coming in here with the Superior 6, as I mentioned before, I could end up accidentally pushing Dr. Doom, and then I just start feeding the High Mind team to get rolling. If I come in here with the Underworld team, I have to stay targeted on the Absorbing Man, and hopefully I don't push Dr. Doom again, or the other team starts going, then they can start steamrolling, feed off the minions, and things go sideways based off of that. So I do like this as a defensive option. There are other options I've seen, such as adding a Super Skrull in here. However, Nightstalker kind of walks over that very easily. I've seen people throw Mephistos with this team. I've seen that team get one shot. So I'm not really losing anything, and I'm still trying to play mind games with my opponent of try not to push that Doom, otherwise things will go sideways for you. Sitting in at the number 8 spot is the Spider Society team. This team here is basically the new Infinity Watch in a sense. They have a lot of sustain, a high speed, a lot of control, and they're very difficult to take out unless you have the proper counter. Peter B. Parker being able to give that sustain and survivability to the team to where they can keep going. Penny, who has a very high damage output along with a lot of control in her, or Spider-Man Pavitra, who has a very high damage cap on him, make it to where this team has to have a particular counter built into them, such as like a heal block of some sort. Otherwise, you're going to be hitting into a brick wall that's not going to go down. What I ended up doing as a lifter in here is I took Ghost Spider out and I threw Spider Weaver in here. There are definitely other options that you can do. However, I already had a Spider Weaver built up and I really wasn't using her, so I figured I could throw her on this team, make it to where if they end up hitting into a Spider-Man war, then the Spider Weaver can start getting that ability energy. She can start getting the ults off and getting the charges up and really throwing off a lot of the counters that typically go into here. There's definitely other options that you can do, such as a Mephisto. The team is so survivable, and giving them that extra armor with a battlefield effect does make it to where a one-shot's going to be a lot more difficult to take out, even if you have the proper tools for it. Or you can go something as simple as a Black Knight. Throw that pre-taunt in there, make it to where they can't hit the targets they want, and they're going to get those retaliates. You can throw Cosmic Ghost Rider, Black Cat. I've seen Lizard in here. There's a lot of different ways that this team could end up functioning by taking out either a Ghost Spider or Spider-Man War. So this team's going to be around for quite a while because of that. This is my number 8 defense. Sitting in at number 7 is going to be the Illuminati team. I know some people end up using this team for offense. However, as a defensive team, this is fairly difficult to get through. The team is so fast because of the speed up that comes from the Hank Pym, the control from Captain Britain and Black Panther Shuri. Then there's either the burps that you have to deal with from Black Bolt, or they can end up being a Iron Man in here who's going to be able to start feeding some ability energy to the team, make it to where if the fight goes long enough, they're going to keep getting their abilities off. So they can be a little bit trickier for that. There are a lot of different lifter options they can end up throwing in here. You can take out a Mr. Fantastic, for instance, and throw in Odin and do that Odinati team. You can throw a Black Bolt, a Mephisto, or even a Super Skrull in here. There's a lot of different ways they can end up making this team elevate to that next level. So I really like this team on the defensive side. What I'm currently doing is sticking with the flat team of the Illuminati, making it to where they need to try to outspeed this team. Otherwise, things can go sideways because of the damage output that this team could end up putting on your opponent. Sitting in the number 6 spot is going to be the Cabal. Now, there's a lot of different variants that you could end up doing it with this, such as the King and Emma, or you can throw a Mephisto in here and really lay into the villain aspect of it. What I'm currently doing is using Omega Red and Lady Deathstrike. The reason I'm going with them is because I did have the Weapon X built up a fairly good amount due to when I started playing the game, and I know a lot of people haven't done that. What these two characters end up giving to the team, where Lady Deathstrike has the newer stats, the high damage output, and the rewinds. Then you have Omega Red, who's able to get the extra speed due to having that Weapon X ally, is able to catch people off guard. By making Omega Red that raider, and he goes very quickly because of Lady Deathstrike being here, he's able to special get the trauma with the ability block out there. That's going to crit. It's going to speed up the Cabal team, and that's going to start making it to where your opponent's kind of playing on their back foot. Certain counters that worked into the King and Emma portion of it don't work as well into this version of it due to placement or who gets the ability block for the RNG portion of it. Now, I know a lot of people do use Cabal on the offensive side of things as well. They are a very good offensive tool to where they take out a lot of different teams depending on what you slot with them. I like how modular and how much theory crafting you could end up doing with the Cabal team. But this version here, I don't really need them on offense. That's why I have them on defense. I want to really maximize my investment of what I did to the Weapon X team. So I was able to slot them in here, and I'm not missing my Lady Deathstrike from the Orcus team. So I'm able to really kind of pivot and make this adjustment. Sitting in at number 5 is an X-Men variant team. Now, the team here doesn't have Nightcrawler placed in it. However, if you are able to, you definitely want to add Nightcrawler in here over Beast. When I was doing the testing with this team, Nightcrawler totally changed the dynamic of what counters can go into here. But I wanted to maximize my investment of the Immortal X-Men, and I have Nightcrawler placed elsewhere on the list with a different team to really throw people off guard. So this here is mainly to, here's some new stat characters, here's the X-Men team, try to take it out. So I'm trying to pivot that way to make it to where they need to overinvest into it, because if Storm ends up popping off, she does that stun on turn 1, turn 2 she does the ultimate, the game's pretty much over for them. So she is that ticking time bomb, but they still need to try to control Forge. If somebody gets pushed, Rogue's going to get that pre-taunt, and they're going to be getting the pings from Gambit. Again, without Nightcrawler, the team doesn't function the same. So I do want to really stress that for you guys. However, with Nightcrawler in here, I had it to where the counters that I typically use, such as the footage you're seeing, where it's the A-Force team, Storm ended up getting a stun on somebody, it threw off the counter, and then she made it to her turn 2 where she got the ultimate. So it doesn't always work to where they have the A-Force counter doesn't work in here. So they need to use something that's a bigger investment, which is why this team does rank currently at number 5. Without Nightcrawler, this team would probably slide down a bit, probably to number 8 on the list. I think the Illuminati and Cabal would end up beating this in ranks without Nightcrawler on here. So with Nightcrawler, 5, without Nightcrawler, probably about 8. So just a heads up for that. Sitting in at the number 4 spot is going to be the Orcus team. This team here has so much functionality as far as how you can end up lifting it up. However, the base form of this team, they are able to get countered fairly easy. If you can get ahead of this team and shut them down, the team really does start to fall apart. And then it's more based on RNG, on who gets revived because of Scientist Supreme or Omega Sentinel keep coming back, because I swear that's not a 30% chance or 25% chance that she comes back. It's more like a 60 to 80% chance. Now, a lot of different versions that I've seen with this is using a Mephisto. Have it to where there's the battlefield effect. The team is more resilient and harder to take out. You can go with an Odin in here. Scientist Supreme does the ultimate, speeds everybody up. And now you have to worry about Odin getting those assists on all of their turns. There's been Ares you get to slot in here, where he's going to take off all of the buffs on your opponent that's trying to punch in here, or Black Knight. The version I'm going with today is going to be the Super Scroll. Having it to where Super Scroll is in here, the team pumps out a lot of positive and negative effects, making it to where Super Scroll can really start pumping out a lot of the damage. He can make it to that ultimate very quickly, and he is that ticking time bomb to where you need to try to worry about how you're going to punch into him, how you're going to take him out, while worrying about the damage output that Nimrod can do, or the pings that Omega Sentinel can do. If you end up subbing somebody out, like say a Lady Deathstrike like I have, you can use her elsewhere. Otherwise, a lot of people end up subbing out Omega Sentinel, and then you don't have to worry about the pings that she does. However, you're also losing out on the stuns that she can end up doing to those tech and mutant characters. I believe it's tech. And she also has the control with the ability block. She is very underrated. I noticed people throw her out way too often, when you can end up taking somebody more like Lady Deathstrike and use her elsewhere and really maximize your investments. That's why this team here does sit at number 4. Sitting in at the number 3 spot is going to be the Annihilators team. Now, this team here, people have started to move more to the offensive side of things. The reason for that is, with all the new stat characters that's coming out, you're able to use this as an offensive tool to make it to where your Thanos endgame gets pushed, and you start removing all the buffs from your opponent, and then you're able to go in and really punch the opponent in the face because of that. However, on the defensive side of thing, the team has a lot of modular use where you can take out characters like Silver Surfer and start sliding in single plug-and-play characters such as Black Knight, Super Scroll, Mephisto, Odin. There's a lot of ways where you can really just improve the team by making that one adjustment, or you can take that a step further. You can take out Ultimus as well, use them on offense, or maybe slide Ultimus along with the Cabal team would be another good option. And now you can add in characters like Dr. Doom and Dorm in here, or maybe a Mephisto with Ares in here, and really elevate this team to the next level, making it to where they really need to think about how they want to attack this because of that Mephisto threat. And now they have to worry about Ares taking off all the buffs as well. So this team definitely sits at number 3 for me because of how you can really lift this team up to that next level. Sitting in at the number 2 spot is going to be the Alpha Flight team. Now this team here is a specialized war defense team, and them on their own isn't that impressive. We're able to find very cheap, very efficient counters to be able to take this team out. However, this team is very modular. You're able to take out 1 or 2 members, and it really changes the dynamic of how this team functions. What I end up doing is taking out Wolverine, take out Sunfire, and I put America Chavez in between that Guardian and Northstar because of how she's able to give that extra turn meter to those characters on spawn, making it to where they pop off so much quicker, and your opponent's really playing on their back foot to where the buffs get flipped, and now they're getting the stun and the control from the Guardian. There's a Mephisto aspect in here now as well, to where there's the battlefield effect. However, there's a lot of different versions that you can end up going with it. If you want to go with Mephisto and Ares, that's another option. Your opponent now doesn't have any of the buffs on them on spawn, and they have to deal with Mephisto as well. You can also go with an Odin aspect on here, because Northstar ulting turn 1 so quickly. He's able to get that assist out there, get the battlefield effect going very quickly as well. This team here works very well with those 2 high value characters. And if you want to go with a more cheaper, efficient route, you can again go with that Dorm, go with the Dr. Doom. So they're going to have that revive once on them. There's going to be the Dr. Doom, to where if he gets pushed, that's going to end up start popping off the team as well. You can go with the Super Scroll version as well, or even a Black Knight version. This team here has so much modular use that your opponent really has to think which version of the Alpha Flight team they're going into and which counter they need to use into that version. So for that reason, this is my number 2 war defensive team. And sitting in at the number 1 spot is going to be the absolute A-Force. This team is a monster when it's on war defense, and it's really good war offensive team as well. They definitely play both sides of the field very well. However, on the defensive side, there's a lot of ways you can really lift this team up, making it very, very difficult for your opponent to try to get through, and you can get a lot of war victories because of it. The version I'm showing you today is going to have Nightcrawler in here, making it to where he's going to get that special very quickly. It's going to get the assist from Odin, so there's going to be the battlefield effect they're going to be punching into. There's the Kahori aspect of it, to where she gets that 200% turn meter, making it to where she gets those 2 quick shots off, possibly 3 if they bring in that controller. Ms. Marvel Classic is a very good power couple with Kahori, making it to where she is a brick house to try to get through, especially if you make her that healer ISO. As we start to get more shards for Medusa, she hits like a monster. She does very high damage, crits, and crit damage is insane for her. This team here can pull a very high value target from your opponent, making it to where it's going to be more difficult for your opponents to start punching into other teams as well. That's why I really like this as a number 1 spot. Now, there's definitely different versions that you can end up using with this. You can throw that Ares in here. You can do that over the Nightcrawler, for instance. You can throw both Odin and Mephisto in here, making it to where they really need to try to put that high investment to take this team out, or just do the quick 2 burn attacks and try to come in with, again, a very high value team that you're pulling away from your opponent. So this team here is going to be at the top of the list for quite a while. We do have a new team coming out in the Liberty team. I definitely want to see where they're going to end up ranking and how we can really lift that team to the next level as well. So that's going to be on the next patch video. But before we go there, I did say I had some honorable mentions, so we're going to take a look at those next. The first honorable mention that I want to talk about today is going to be the Astral team. I know a lot of people do tend to use this team on defense, but some do use them on offense as well. Now, when this team is on defense, they do have certain counters that could end up working, such as the Mercs for Money team. However, that team does have a tendency to get timeout issues because of the Awakened Passive that Emma Frost has. The Mercs for Money team pumps out a lot of disrupts, which she's then able to flip into immunity, making it to where you can't really get bleeds on them, and it really throws off the counter and drains the efficiency out to where you get that timeout issue, especially if Doctor Strange ends up doing the ultimate to revive everybody back. and then it's just a very frustrating matchup. There's other teams that could end up going into this, such as the Undying team is a very good option. They can end up going into this. So what you're able to do is start sliding out certain members, throwing other members in, such as Ares. Again, he's a very, very good war plug-and-play character to where he just disrupts your opponent and what counters do you want to really push into this. Or you could end up going with the Mephisto route. If you do the Mephisto route, you can take out Doctor Strange because he can't get the revives anyways. Odin wouldn't work as well in here because the team is fairly slow until they start getting going, and Ancient One starts getting the special to where she gets the speed up and the counterattacks to the team. Super Scroll is a pretty good option. They could end up slotting in here, or maybe go with Dorms. That way they do have that revive once chance. The Astral team is a really good powerhouse team depending on who you plug with it. That's really going to change how your opponent has to think they want to go into it. And usually it's going to end up pulling a very high value target. So this is going to be my first honorable mention. Let's go to the next one. The next team I want to discuss is going to be the Nightstalkers team. Now, the Nightstalkers, I tend to use more on the offensive side of things. However, I do see them on defense as well. The team hits very hard, and they take out a lot of teams on the offensive side. Specifically, I look for teams that might have Super Scroll attached to them. If I see a Hive Mind with Super Scroll, this team can usually take it out with no problem at all. Or other versions of Super Scroll, because the team doesn't spawn in with a lot of buffs. So I'm usually able to get the jump on them very quickly, funnel down the Super Scroll and take it out like it wasn't even there. On the defensive side of things, though, that does change. I see a lot of people using Mephisto as an option on here. Now, as you see on the screen right now, there is going to be the Mighty Avengers going into it. And this is a smaller Hercules. I do feel that when Hercules basically gets finished, gets all of his stars done, or gets close to, that team's going to be able to get a one-shot on this due to how the Mighty Avengers plays out, where you can keep taking the buffs. They're going to power themselves up. Falcon does the ultimate, does a lot of hits into it, so you're really able to start punching through those death proofs and start tunneling down a lot of the Nightstalker's characters. Other teams that's able to go into it could be like an Undying version, where you can really punch into them. So there are definitely one-shot options available that's easier to take out than Mephisto being placed elsewhere. So that's why this is more of a honorable mention, and it really didn't make the list for me as a top 10. I'd rather use it on offense, use Mephisto elsewhere, and really maximize where my characters are placed. And the last honorable mention that I want to discuss today was going to be what we talked about in the Absolute A-Force, the number 1 spot. This version here is going to have Odin and Mephisto together, and this is a powerhouse unit when they're combined together, to where you either need to go in with 2 burn attacks and then throw a very, very high value target into this, which means that you're not really making it to where they have to separate their eggs. They can end up throwing everything at one room as well, as opposed to spreading out their resources and making them fumble that way. So that's why I preferred to have the Odin Absolute A-Force as number 1, as opposed to this being the number 1. However, this was worthy of conversation. That's why this is here. What I found in the testing on this one was that I wasn't able to get a one-shot. However, I got very close and made it to where the follow-up attack would be much easier. As you're seeing right now, I was able to take out the Absolute A-Force, I was able to take out Mephisto, but I wasn't able to finish off Odin, meaning the follow-up attack could end up being a 2-tap for this, as opposed to a 1-shot or 2 burn attacks, and then that 1-shot. So because of that right there, I would rather have it to where my Mephisto is in one room, my Odin is another room, and have them try to do 2 stacks in each room, as opposed to maybe 2 burn attacks in one room. I'm not really spreading out their resources, which is my goal whenever I think of a defense. I want them to have, I need this team for room A, I need this team also for room B. Which one do I want to go for? So because of that, this is more of an honorable mention, but I definitely wanted to show you what this team can actually bring to the table. And those are my top 10 ward defenses, along with those 3 honorable mentions that we end up discussing. Let me know in the comments, did you actually agree? Do you disagree? Do you think I got a few things wrong as far as how the list goes, or how I end up approaching these defenses? I'd love to hear you guys' feedback. This is going to be the ongoing series. Every single patch, I'm going to do this video, get it out for you guys, and we can try to come together as a community, try to find the best way to utilize our resources and our investment to get a good attack team and defensive team for our alliances. If you did enjoy this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, have one for the rest of the day.